Bruce Lee was at beach when surfer gang said, "Kung Fu guys are weak." 10 seconds later. Some moments in life burn themselves into your memory so clearly that time can't touch them. This is one of those moments. And I've never told this story publicly before. Not in full detail anyway. Because I wanted to protect Bruce's privacy while he was alive. And even after he passed, it felt like something sacred. But I think now, after all these years, people deserve to know what kind of man he really was when nobody was watching. Not the movie star. Not the legend. Just Bruce. It was late spring, 1972. Somewhere along the California coast. I can't tell you exactly which beach because Bruce preferred it that way. He had a few spots he'd go to when he needed to escape the noise of Hollywood. The interviews. The expectations. This was one of them. Pause. A long stretch of sand. Not too crowded. With cliffs on one side and the Pacific stretching out forever on the other. The kind of place where you could hear yourself think. We'd driven out there in his car, windows down, no music. Just the sound of the wind and the engine. Bruce didn't talk much on the drive. He was in one of his quiet moods. Not upset. Just internal. Reflective. He'd been training hard for the past few weeks. Working on a new film project. And I could tell he was tired. Not physically, Bruce was never physically tired, but mentally. Emotionally. He was drained. Fame does that to you. Pulls and pulls until there's nothing left. Unless you know how to protect yourself. When we got to the beach, he just stood there for a minute, looking at the water. The sun was high, but not harsh. There was a breeze coming off the ocean, cool and clean. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and I watched his shoulders drop. That's when I knew he was letting go of whatever weight he'd been carrying. This was his reset button. The ocean. We walked for a while, barefoot in the sand, talking about nothing and everything. Philosophy, life, training. He told me about a concept he'd been working on. Something about being like water. I'd heard him talk about it before, but that day, he went deeper. He said, most people try to force their way through life like a rock, hard and rigid, and life just breaks them down. But water, he said, water doesn't fight. It flows. It adapts. It finds the path of least resistance. And yet, over time, it shapes mountains. I nodded. But honestly, I didn't fully understand it yet. I would later. We found a spot near some rocks where the sand was soft and the shade was decent. Bruce sat down, leaned back, and closed his eyes again. I sat beside him, just watching the waves roll in. There were a few surfers out in the water, maybe 20 or 30 yards offshore. They were good. You could tell by the way they read the waves. The way they moved with the water instead of against it. Bruce would have appreciated that if he'd been paying attention. But he wasn't. He was somewhere else. Somewhere calm. Shift in tone tension. That's when I heard them. Voices. Loud. Rough. Coming from up the beach. I turned and saw 5 guys walking toward us. Surfers. You could tell by the boards under their arms and the wetsuit tops tied around their waists. They were big. Not bodybuilder big, but solid. The kind of size you get from years of paddling through heavy surf and wrestling with the ocean. Tanned. Shaggy hair. Confident in that casual, careless way surfers have. The leader, the one in front, was the biggest. Probably 6 feet 2 inches, maybe 6 feet 3 inches. Wide shoulders. Thick arms. He had a grin on his face, but it wasn't friendly. They weren't heading toward us specifically. Not at first, but as they got closer, one of them noticed Bruce. I saw the recognition hit. The nudge to the guy next to him. The whispers. Then, the laughter. Bruce still had his eyes closed. They stopped maybe 10 feet away, standing in a loose semicircle. The big one, the leader, tilted his head and looked down at Bruce like he was examining something curious. Then he said it, loud enough for us to hear. Loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. Hey! Isn't that the Kung Fu guy? His friends laughed. Not a real laugh. A mocking one. Bruce didn't move. Didn't open his eyes. I felt my chest tighten. I'd seen this before. People testing him. Challenging him. Trying to prove something. It happened more than you'd think. Fame makes you a target. The leader took a step closer. Yo, Kung Fu guy. You hear me? Still nothing from Bruce, but I saw his jaw tighten. Just barely. He was aware. He was choosing not to engage. The guy turned to his friends and laughed again. Man, I heard these Kung Fu guys are supposed to be tough. But look at this. Dude won't even open his eyes. One of the others chimed in. Maybe he's meditating. Bro finding his inner peace or whatever. More laughter. Then the leader crouched down, getting closer to Bruce's face. Too close. Hey, I'm talking to you. That's when Bruce opened his eyes. Slowly, calmly. He looked at the guy, and there was no anger in his expression. No fear. Just observation. Like he was noting the situation, cataloging it, deciding what it required. Can I help you? Bruce's voice was even, polite. The guy smirked. Yeah, actually, my buddies and I were just talking, and we were wondering, is Kung Fu actually real? Or is it just movie stuff? Bruce didn't answer right away. He just looked at him. Then he looked at the others, counting, measuring. It's real, Bruce said quietly. The leader laughed. Real, huh? Because no offense, man, but you don't look that tough. I mean, you're what? 5 feet 7 inches? Maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. Bruce didn't react. He just kept looking. See, the thing is, the guy continued, standing back up. We've been in real fights. Out in the water, on the beach, against guys twice your size. And I gotta say, man, I just don't see it. I think Kung Fu guys are weak. There it was. The line. I felt my pulse spike. I looked at Bruce. His face hadn't changed, but something in the air had. One of the other surfers, a younger guy with bleach blonde hair, laughed nervously. Dude, maybe we should just... Nah. The leader cut him off. I'm curious. I want to see if this guy's for real. Bruce stood up. Slowly. Smoothly. No rush, no aggression. He brushed the sand off his shorts and looked the guy in the eye. I don't want any trouble, Bruce said. The leader grinned. Neither do I, man. I just want to see what you got. The tension was thick now. I could feel it pressing down on everything. The sound of the waves felt distant, like the world had narrowed to just this circle of sand. These 6 men. And whatever was about to happen. Bruce didn't move. He just stood there, relaxed, hands at his sides. He wasn't in any kind of fighting stance. He looked like a man waiting for a bus. But I knew better. I'd seen him train. I'd seen him move. And I knew that when Bruce looked relaxed, that's when he was most dangerous. The leader stepped forward, rolling his shoulders. Come on, man. Just one move. Show me something. Prove it's not all fake. Bruce shook his head slowly. I don't need to prove anything. Yeah, you do. The guy's smile faded. His voice dropped, got harder. Because right now, you look like a coward. I saw Bruce's eyes flicker. Not with anger, with calculation. He was reading the guy, reading the group. I'd seen him do this in sparring sessions. He'd watch his opponent, study their weight distribution, their breathing, the tension in their shoulders. He was gathering data. Look, Bruce said, his voice still calm. You're bigger than me. Stronger than me, probably. You've got 4 friends with you. I'm just here trying to enjoy the beach. There's no reason for this. The leader laughed, but it sounded forced now. Like he was trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. Man, if you're scared, just say you're scared. One of the other surfers, the one who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. Dude, seriously, let's just go. This is stupid. But the leader wasn't listening. He was locked in now. Pride had taken over. He couldn't back down in front of his friends. I've seen it 100 times. Men do the dumbest things when their ego's on the line. He stepped even closer, now maybe 3 feet from Bruce. I'm going to give you one last chance. Kung Fu man, show me something? Or admit you're all talk. Bruce looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at me. Our eyes met, and I saw something in his expression. Not fear. Not excitement. Just resignation. Like he knew where this was going, and he wished it didn't have to. He turned back to the leader. If I show you something, will you leave? The guy grinned. Yeah, sure. If it's any good. Bruce nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm only going to do this once. And I need you to understand something first. What's that? Fighting isn't about who's bigger or stronger. It's about timing, distance, and understanding force. Most people think you have to be aggressive to win a fight, but that's not true. You just have to be efficient. The leader rolled his eyes. Yeah, I've heard all that mystical crap before. You going to do something or just talk? Bruce's expression didn't change. I'm going to show you what I mean, but I need you to throw a real punch. Not a fake one. A real one. Like you mean it. The guy's eyebrows went up. You want me to hit you? I want you to try. The other surfers exchanged glances. The young blonde one said, Man, I don't know about this. But the leader was already committed. He squared up, brought his hands up into a loose boxing stance. He was grinning again, but there was something nervous in it now. All right, Kung Fu. Your funeral. Bruce just stood there, hands still at his sides. Loose, open, vulnerable. The guy threw the punch. It was fast. Faster than I expected from a guy that big. A straight right hand aimed right at Bruce's face. Full power behind it. The kind of punch that could put someone in the hospital. But it never landed. What happened next? I've replayed in my mind 1,000 times, and I still can't fully explain how he did it. Bruce moved. Not a big movement. Not a jump or a dodge, just a small shift of his head and upper body, maybe 6 inches to the side. The punch sailed past his face, missing by a fraction. And in that same instant, while the guy was still extended, off balance, committed to the punch, Bruce did something I'd never seen before. He didn't hit him. He guided him. Bruce's left hand came up, barely touching the guy's extended arm, and instead of blocking it or stopping it, he redirected it. Just a light pressure, a small circular motion, and suddenly the guy's own momentum was working against him. His body twisted, his balance broke, and he stumbled forward right past Bruce. But Bruce wasn't done. As the guy stumbled past, Bruce's right hand came up, open palm, and struck him in the back of the shoulder. Not hard. It didn't look hard, but it was perfectly placed, perfectly timed. The guy's legs buckled, and he went down hard, face first into the sand. The whole thing took maybe 2 seconds. The other 4 surfers froze. They'd been watching, waiting to see what would happen. And now they were staring at their friend, the biggest guy in the group, the leader, lying in the sand. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the second guy, the one who'd been quiet before, stepped forward. He was angry now. You could see it in his face. What the hell, man? He didn't finish the sentence. He swung at Bruce. A wild haymaker coming from the side. Bruce ducked under it effortlessly. And as the guy's arm passed over his head, Bruce stepped in close, inside the guy's range, and drove his shoulder into the guy's ribs. Not a punch. A shoulder check. The impact lifted the guy off his feet and sent him sprawling backward into the sand. 2 down. The remaining 3 looked at each other. The young blonde one took a step back, hands up. Whoa. We're cool, man. We're cool. But the other 2 weren't listening. They came at Bruce together. 1 from each side. It was the smart move. The only move that made sense. You can't fight 2 people at once. Not really. But Bruce didn't try to fight them both. He used them against each other. The guy on the left threw a punch. Bruce sidestepped, grabbed the guy's wrist and pulled him forward hard, right into the path of the guy coming from the right. They collided. A tangle of arms and legs and confusion. Bruce stepped back, let them stumble into each other, and then, as they tried to separate, he struck. A quick sidekick to the first guy's knee, buckling it, dropping him, then a palm strike to the second guy's chest. Perfectly centered, perfectly timed. The guy gasped. The air knocked out of him and he sat down hard in the sand, wheezing. For down. The young blonde guy was still standing, but he wasn't moving. He was just staring, wide-eyed, hands still up in a defensive gesture. I'm good, man. I'm not doing this. Bruce looked at him. Smart. The whole thing had taken maybe 15 seconds. Maybe less. And Bruce wasn't even breathing hard. I stood there frozen, trying to process what I just witnessed. I'd seen Bruce spar before. I'd seen him train and seen him demonstrate techniques. But this was different. This was real. These weren't cooperative training partners. These were 5 grown men. Strong men. Men who'd come looking for a fight. And Bruce had dismantled them without breaking a sweat. The leader was getting up now. Slowly. Spitting sand out of his mouth. His face was red. Partly from the impact, partly from embarrassment. He looked at Bruce, and for a second, I thought he might try again. But then he looked at his friends, scattered in the sand around him, and something in him deflated. What did you do? His voice was quieter now. Confused. Bruce didn't gloat. He didn't smile or make a joke. He just looked at the guy with something close to sympathy. I told you, it's not about size or strength. It's about understanding force. The second guy, the one who'd taken the shoulder check, was sitting up now, rubbing his ribs. Man, that didn't even look like you hit us that hard. I didn't, Bruce said. You hit yourselves. I just helped you along. The guy who'd taken the palm strike to the chest was still wheezing, trying to catch his breath. I can't breathe right. Bruce walked over to him, crouched down. The guy flinched, but Bruce's hands were gentle as he touched the man's shoulder. Breathe slowly, in through your nose, out through your mouth. You're fine. I didn't damage anything. Your diaphragm just got shocked. It'll pass in a minute. The guy nodded, following Bruce's instructions. Sure enough, after about 30 seconds, his breathing started to normalize. He looked up at Bruce with something between fear and awe. How did you? Bruce stood up, offered his hand. The guy hesitated, then took it. Bruce pulled him to his feet. The leader was brushing sand off his wetsuit, not looking at anyone. This is bull, man. You sucker punched me. I didn't punch you at all, Bruce said calmly. You punched yourself. I just moved. That's not how fighting works. It's exactly how fighting works. You came at me with force and aggression, and I redirected it. That's the whole point. You don't meet force with force. You redirect it. Use it. Let it defeat itself. The quiet guy who'd collided with his friend was standing now, too, limping slightly. But we were coming at you from both sides. How did you? Bruce turned to him. You telegraphed your moves. Both of you. I saw where you were going before you got there. And instead of trying to fight both of you at once, I just made sure you were in each other's way. He paused. If you're fighting multiple opponents, you never let them surround you. You keep them in a line. Make them obstacles for each other. The young blonde guy, the one who'd backed off, spoke up. That's actually really smart. Bruce nodded. Fighting isn't about being tough. It's about being smart. About seeing what's happening and responding appropriately. The leader finally looked at Bruce. The anger was gone from his face now, replaced by something else. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. So all that stuff in your movies, that's real? Some of it, Bruce said. The principles are real. The philosophy is real. The techniques are real. But movies are movies. They're designed to look good on screen, to entertain. Real fighting is different. It's faster, simpler, less pretty. That didn't look simple, the guy who'd taken the knee strike said. He was still sitting in the sand, rubbing his leg. It is simple, Bruce said. Simple doesn't mean easy. It means efficient. No wasted movement. No excess. Just what's necessary. I watched the group process this. They'd come over here full of confidence, ready to prove something, to test this little Chinese guy who made kung fu movies. And in 15 seconds, everything they thought they knew had been turned upside down. The leader stood there for a long moment, looking at Bruce. Then, he did something I didn't expect. He extended his hand. Look, man. I'm sorry. That was stupid. We were being jerks. Bruce looked at the hand, then at the man's face. He was reading him again, I could tell, deciding if this was genuine or just another test. After a moment, he took the hand and shook it. Apology accepted. The guy nodded, then looked at his friends. Come on, let's get out of here. But Bruce stopped him. Wait. The group froze. I saw tension ripple through them again. They didn't know what was coming. Bruce walked over to where they'd dropped their surfboards when the confrontation started. He picked one up, examined it. This is a nice board. What is it? 7 feet 6 inches. The leader blinked, surprised by the question. Yeah. 7 feet 6 inches pintail. Custom shaped. Bruce ran his hand along the rail. Beautiful work. The rocker's perfect for these waves. He looked at the guy. You surf well. Yeah. I try. I saw you out there earlier. You read the waves well. You know how to position yourself. How to wait for the right moment. Bruce handed him the board. That's the same thing I was doing just now. Reading the situation. Waiting for the right moment. Positioning myself. The guy took the board, looking confused. Surfing and fighting are the same thing? Not the same, but related. Both require you to understand force and flow. In surfing, you're working with the ocean's energy. In fighting, you're working with your opponent's energy. The principle is similar. You don't fight the wave. You ride it. You don't fight the punch. You redirect it. I saw something click in the guy's eyes. Understanding. Real understanding. One of the other surfers, the one who'd been quiet, spoke up. So, when you moved our punches, you were riding them like a wave? Bruce smiled. It was the first time he'd smiled since this whole thing started. Exactly. The young blonde guy sat down in the sand, shaking his head. Man, that's actually really cool. Bruce sat down too, right there in the sand with them. I watched, amazed. 5 minutes ago, these guys had been trying to fight him. Now they were sitting in a circle like students around a teacher. Can I ask you something? The leader said. Sure. Why didn't you just, knock us all out? You could have, right? Bruce was quiet for a moment. Yes, I could have. But why would I? You weren't trying to hurt me. Not really. You were trying to test me. To prove something. Maybe to yourselves, maybe to each other. Hurting you wouldn't have taught you anything. It would have just made you angry. Or scared. Or resentful. So what? You held back. I used what was necessary. Nothing more. The quiet surfer, the one who'd taken the palm strike, leaned forward. But how do you know? How do you know what's necessary? Bruce picked up a handful of sand. Let it run through his fingers. Experience. Training. Awareness. But mostly, it's about intention. Before any physical technique, before any movement, you have to know what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to hurt someone? defend yourself, end the situation? Each requires different things. And what were you trying to do with us? The leader asked. End the situation, Bruce said simply, as quickly and safely as possible. For all of us. The guy who'd taken the knee strike was stretching his leg out. Safely? Dude, my knee is killing me. Bruce looked at him. Is it injured? Or does it just hurt? The guy paused, testing it. It hurts, but I can move it. Then it's not injured. It's shocked. There's a difference. I struck a nerve cluster. Temporarily disrupted the signals. It'll be sore tomorrow, maybe for a few days, but there's no damage. If I'd wanted to injure you, I would have struck differently. Lower. With a different angle. Your knee would be broken. The guy's eyes widened. You can do that? Just break someone's knee. Anyone can break a knee if they know where to hit and how to hit it. But knowing how to break something and choosing to break something are very different things. Bruce looked around at all of them. This is what most people don't understand about martial arts. It's not about what you can do. It's about what you choose to do. The control. The restraint. That's harder than the technique itself. The young blonde surfer pulled his knees up to his chest. So all that stuff about martial arts being a way of life, that's not just movie talk? No, Bruce said. It's real. Maybe the most real part. The physical techniques, those are just tools. But the philosophy, the discipline, the self-control, that's what actually matters. That's what changes you. The leader was quiet, staring out at the ocean. After a moment he said, I've been in a lot of fights. Beach fights, bar fights, stupid stuff. And I always thought the goal was to win. To prove I was tougher than the other guy. And how did that work out for you? Bruce asked. But his tone wasn't mocking. It was genuinely curious. The guy shrugged. I won most of them. But I never felt good about it after. Just empty. Like, what did I actually prove? That you can hurt people, Bruce said. But that's not something to be proud of. Any fool can hurt someone. It takes wisdom to avoid hurting people. It takes skill to protect yourself without destroying someone else. I watched these 5 surfers, these guys who'd come over here looking for trouble, looking to mock and test and prove themselves, and I saw their faces change. They weren't defensive anymore. They weren't posturing. They were listening. Really listening. The quiet one spoke up again. Can I ask you something personal? Bruce nodded. Go ahead. Do you ever get scared? Before a fight? I mean... Bruce was quiet for a long moment. The sound of the waves filled the silence. Finally, he said, every time. That surprised them. I could see it in their faces. The leader said, but you're Bruce Lee. You're you. Bruce smiled, but it was a sad smile. Being skilled doesn't mean you stop being human. Fear is natural. It's your body's way of preparing you for danger. The question isn't whether you feel fear. The question is what you do with it. What do you do with it? The young blonde guy asked. I acknowledge it. I don't try to suppress it or ignore it. I feel it, understand what it's telling me, and then I act anyway. Fear is information. Tells you something is at stake. That you need to be sharp, present, aware. But you can't let it control you. The guy who'd taken the shoulder check rubbed his ribs again. Man, you made that look so easy. Like you weren't even trying. That's because I wasn't trying, Bruce said. Trying implies force, effort, struggle. I was just doing. There's a difference. I don't get it, the guy said. Bruce thought for a moment. When you're out there surfing, riding a wave, are you trying to ride it? Or are you just riding it? I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing it. Exactly. Because you've trained enough that it's become natural. Your body knows what to do without your mind having to force it. That's what real skill looks like. It's not about trying harder. It's about training so much that the right response becomes automatic, natural, effortless. The leader was nodding slowly. So all those hours in the water, all that practice, that's the same thing you do with Kung Fu. That's the same thing anyone does with anything they want to master, Bruce said. Musicians, artists, athletes, doesn't matter. You train until the technique disappears, and all that's left is expression. Pure, natural expression. One of the surfers looked at his friends, then back at Bruce. Do you teach? Could someone like us learn this stuff? Bruce laughed softly. Anyone can learn, but most people don't have the patience. They want the results without the work. They want to be able to fight like me without training like me. It doesn't work that way. How much do you train? The young blonde guy asked. Every day. Multiple times a day. I've been doing this since I was a child. Decades of constant practice. Constant refinement. Constant learning. The leader let out a low whistle. That's commitment. It's not commitment when you love it, Bruce said. It's just life. I train because I enjoy it, because it makes me better, because I'm curious about what I can discover. The day it feels like a chore is the day I'll stop. We sat there for a while, this unlikely group just watching the ocean. The sun was lower now, the light softer. The earlier tension had completely evaporated, replaced by something else. Respect, maybe, or understanding. Finally, the leader stood up. His friends followed. We should get going. But, thanks. For not really hurting us. And for, talking to us instead of just... Bruce stood too. Thank you for being willing to listen. A lot of people can't do that after their ego takes a hit. The guy laughed, but it was genuine this time. Man, my ego took more than a hit. It got completely destroyed. Good, Bruce said. Ego is the enemy of learning. You can rebuild it later, stronger, based on something real instead of something imagined. They shook hands again. All of them. Even the guys who'd been on the receiving end of Bruce's techniques seemed to hold no grudge. If anything, they seemed grateful. As they started to walk away, boards under their arms, the quiet surfer turned back. Hey, Bruce. Yeah. That thing you said about being like water? I think I get it now. Bruce smiled. Good. Hold on to that. We watched them walk back down the beach, their silhouettes getting smaller against the setting sun. Nobody spoke for a while. The ocean continued its rhythm, indifferent to what had just happened. Finally, I turned to Bruce. That was incredible. The way you handled that. I've never seen anything like it. He sat back down in the sand, picked up another handful, let it slip through his fingers again. It wasn't about being incredible. It was about being appropriate. Still. 5 guys. 15 seconds. 14, he said with a slight smile. But who's counting? The smile faded. You know what the sad part is? Those guys came here looking for a fight because they thought that's what strength was. Aggression, dominance, proving you're tougher than someone else. And our whole culture reinforces that. Movies, sports, everything tells men that's what it means to be strong. But you showed them different. Maybe. I hope so. He looked out at the water. Real strength isn't about dominating others. It's about controlling yourself. Knowing when to act and when not to. Having the power to hurt someone and choosing not to. That's what separates a martial artist from a fighter. That's what separates wisdom from ego. The sun was touching the horizon now, painting everything gold and orange. Bruce closed his eyes again, breathing deep. You think they learned something today? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I think they learned that what they thought they knew about strength was wrong. Whether they remember that lesson, whether they apply it, that's up to them. I can only plant seeds. I can't make them grow. We sat there as the sun disappeared, as the beach emptied, as the day turned to dusk. Bruce never mentioned the incident again. Not that day. Not ever. For him, it was already in the past. Just another moment. Another opportunity to express what he believed. To live what he taught. But I never forgot it. How 5 men came looking for a fight and left with a lesson. How violence was avoided even when it seemed inevitable. How the strongest person on that beach was the one who never wanted to prove it. That was Bruce Lee. Not the legend. Not the movie star. Just a man who understood that real power whispers.